Hello and good evening to you all. So in this video I am going to talk a little bit about the World Health Organization and their 16 days campaign to end violence against women and girls. Very noble, which is fine. I cannot stress this too strongly. I do not have a problem with campaigns to protect women and girls. I've got daughters, two daughters whom I love, and of course they should be protected. That's not in question. But before I get into that, I need to explain a couple of the screenshots I put up this afternoon. The first was the orange one that's on its side. That is actually a screenshot of sort of the World Health Organization mission statement for this campaign. I couldn't fit it on one sort of upright, so I had to put it onto one side, and it's kind of small, so you can't really read it, so I apologise for that. But it's just so you can read it at your leisure. The other one is a screenshot from my old channel, the Ashton Crew member channel. It was I made it, I think, at the beginning of the year when I was first playing around with TikTok and doing these kinds of videos. And it was just a screenshot and a little bit of a commentary from the Crown Prosecution Service website. And it's about how the CPS will not prosecute somebody, for example, who makes an allegation of domestic abuse, for example, and there's no charge, or the police say there's not enough evidence, or even the accused is acquitted. So, and the purpose of that was to debunk the theory that is put forward by far too many people, that false allegations should not be prosecuted because it stops real victims from coming forward. Do the CPS and whoever abide by the law in this regard? I don't know. I'm just saying that is what the CPS says, and this is what their criteria and what the law says. But now I want to come back to this thing from the World Health Organization, and I got it from DAVIA, that's the Domestic Abuse and Violence International Alliance. 16 Days Feminist Campaign seeks to erase male victims of violence. And when you look at this mission statement of theirs, it's hard to argue with that. I'll read a little bit from it, and because there's something in there that really needs to be addressed. It's the first paragraph. Gender-based violence is a global public health, gender equality and human rights priority. It remains a systemic crisis affecting 1 in 3 women worldwide. Risks increase during humanitarian emergencies, or when women face greater curtailment of their essential rights, such as access to education, healthcare, or freedom of movement. Now, I'm not disputing that. But the fact this whole mission statement thing is a blatant disregard of the UN Charter of Human Rights, Articles 1 and 2. Article 1, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Article 2, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this charter without discrimination of any kind, such as race, religion, colour, gender, political or other opinion. Now that is the UN's own Charter on Human Rights, and not once on this thing do they mention men and boys. Now I want to turn to this matter of the humanitarian... Before I forget. World Health Organization themselves. James Campbell, the Director of the Health Workforce Department of the World Health Organization, wrote in July 2017, discrimination in healthcare, which is essentially what they're talking about here, is widespread and it violates the most fundamental human rights. Discrimination runs counter to global commitments. Okay, that's what the senior director of the World Health Organization has to say about this. But just take a look at this mission statement from the World Health Organization. The first paragraph, where they talk about risks increase during humanitarian emergencies. And yes, that is true as far as it goes. But to talk about humanitarian emergencies without touching on the violence, sometimes the SA, suffered by men and boys, is flying in the face of logic and flying in the face of truth. Now, I did a little bit of digging here because I know a little bit about the Congo. Now, according to the Centre for African Justice, Peace and Human Rights, 38.5% of male refugees from the DRC experienced SA. Now, not denying the problems encountered by women and girls, of course, I'm not. But the added complication for male victims of this kind of violence is the fear of being branded homosexual in a very homophobic country. And also, it is noted by this organisation that even reported cases are not being included in official statistics. I'll go further. According to Relief Web, an article in Relief Web dated the 28th of June 2012, 21% of tortured Sri Lankan Tamil men being treated in London had experienced SA. In El Salvador during the 1980s, 76% of male victims of the torture that was going on in that country in the 1980s were victims of SA. So please, 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 don't exclude men and boys from your campaign. Just stop it. There is no justification for it. And the fact that these feminist organisations are promoting this thing, this sort of nonsense, shows that they're actually not interested in helping the women and girls they want to claim to help, because women and girls have sons and brothers. And the girls, when they grow up and have are old enough to have relationships of their own, they're likely to have sons. Do you really want to see them go through what we've been going through? And do you really want to see your daughters going through what our mothers have gone through, seeing how we've suffered? Is that their response to tackling abuse and hurt caused to women and girls? Really? I've read this and I'm not happy with it. And there's not much I can do about it. But I can raise awareness of this. I can make the point that in the World Health Organization's own work, they are fully well aware, for example, of the violence inflicted on men and women in countries like the Congo, in the Eastern Congo. But for them to exclude the male victims from their deliberations in a campaign like this is unlawful. It is that simple. It is unlawful. And they know it. Now, earlier this evening, I was watching a piece where Jordan Peterson was being interviewed by Piers Morgan, and Jordan, sitting beside him, Jordan was his daughter Michaela, and she's very like him. And what Michaela was saying is that this feminist writer called, what do we call it? Some feminist writer had criticised her father, and she described her as arrogant. And that's the thing to bear in mind about organisations who are talking like this. This is their rhetoric. One of the things that the people like this dislike is coming up against someone like Jordan Peterson, because he can out-argue them. The feminists who put together this nonsense, the reason they try to shut us down is not because we're wrong, but because they know that if they tried to debate us on equal terms, we would show them up as frauds. Thank you and good night.